She wants to know how I've been. Tell her that I'm happy. Tell her that I'm gay. Tell her I wouldn't have it any other way.
And so to be able to say in that lyric, you know, I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't have any problem being myself.
When singer-songwriter Chris Matthews discovered that song, she thought,
who is this incredible woman who is a trans woman?
And when I pass, I hear them whisper.
Her name, Jackie Shane, born and raised in Nashville in the 1940s. Through Shane's music, she declared who she was and dared to live her life true to herself.
It's just so profoundly powerful.
Matthews believes Shane's life shows the Black woman experience is about living authentically.
But this heart beating in my
It's a message Matthews infuses into her own music.
I might look good in a dress, but I feel better in a suit and tie.
I am also a woman who lives in the South, and I am a woman who presents atypically. I hope people draw a connection through my music straight to hers.
Shane ended up living in Canada for years because she said she was able to express herself without fear.
She was this big mega star in Canada. In Canada, she was as big as Little Richard was here in the U.S.
And today, Shane's legacy is cemented on the corner, just a few blocks away, at the Jefferson Street Sound Museum. Its founder, Lorenzo Washington, says he knew Shane. He said the two developed a friendship 2 years before she died.
We talked for 2.5 hours, that first phone call, and that was the beginning.
He said it was clear she was a star.
She was like royalty. She was so proper and strong.
And that song, Any Other Way, was nominated for Best Historical Album at the Grammys in 2019, more than 50 years after she originally performed it in 1963. It's a song that's still inspiring a new generation of LGBTQIA artists.
That's something that just is profoundly moving to me.
Any other way.
Danielle Ledbetter, WSMV4.
People have been talking.
We got a call out of one Friday that we had this famous aunt that we knew nothing about.
That aunt turned out to be Jackie Shane. The Nashville native was a Black trans woman singer in the 50s.
We believe that she knew at such time her story was going to be told because she preserved everything, documents, clothing, show items.
And when I pass, I hear them whisper.
Sifting through her things, they found her autobiography.
One of the most powerful statements that she said was, "I was born but never lived."
As a Black trans woman in those times, it was hard.
Being Black during those Jim Crow times, it was very dangerous. And she was just true to herself. She wasn't trying to be this or that. She just wanted to be Jackie Shane and be respected.
Shane ended up moving to Canada, where she was a success. Her biggest hit was a song called
Any Other Way.
The song just aligns with her belief, what she stood on, and also her love for singing and her love for expressing herself through song and through music.
There in Canada, she felt free, but she ended up returning to Nashville and became a recluse. After years, her family says she is finally getting her flowers. There's a historical marker now in her honor on Jefferson Street.
I sit back and I envision my Aunt Jackie just saying, finally. Finally, I am seen for my talent. I am seen for taking a stance for what I believe in and what I know, standing on who I am.
And finally, getting a chance to really live.
We're going to allow her to live through us like she felt like she was never able to live when she was alive.
But not only through her nieces, but also through her music.
What people are discovering about the music is the soul of the music. Music to me is a universal. And when you incorporate music, it doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a face. It's the words and how it makes people feel and what's said and how, people move. So, and that's what Jackie Shane was about.
Danielle Ledbetter, WSMV4. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today. Now, I want you guys to both start off by saying your name and telling us what your affiliation with this film that we'll get into in moments is.
Great. I'm Luca Rosenberg-Lee, and I'm the co-director and co-writer of Any Other Way, the Jackie Shane Story.
And I'm Michael Mabbitt, and I'm the co-writer and co-director with Luca on the Jackie Shane Story.
I want to start off by congratulating you guys on your documentary hitting streaming platforms first and foremost. But can you guys start off by telling us what initially drew you guys to telling this story?
Feel free to kick it off, Michael.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we're both from Toronto, and about 12 years ago, I heard Jackie's incredible album. And when the first time I heard that, I'd never heard of Jackie. I'd never heard of music like this being made in our hometown. And I was immediately in love with her music and her message in her music. And I started looking around for any information on her, and there was very, very little. There was very little. And all that was known then was that she was quite a big star in Toronto. And then in 1971, she disappeared, and nobody knew at that time whether she was alive or dead. And so the power of her music and how it spoke to me, and the fact that I hadn't heard of this, and the fact that it seemed like her history, this incredible artist's history, had been essentially erased or all but forgotten, was really, really motivating, I think, as a filmmaker, for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, when Michael told me about the story, I was instantly, intrigued. Especially like being a Black trans man. In my experience, having a sort of trans icon in music that I didn't know about was really interesting. And then the fact that she disappeared and the family didn't know that she existed until after she had passed. So to me, as just a documentarian and storyteller and someone who's interested in gender and culture, I found it very fascinating.
And then can you guys give us like a brief rundown for people who will be tuning into this interview who may not have heard of Jackie Shane, who she was and what this documentary kind of tells the story of?
For sure. Yeah. Do you want to go for it, Michael?
I feel like you're faster at this.
Oh, for sure. So Jackie Shane, so she was born in Nashville in Jim Crow South. She identified as trans from a very young age, but was always an incredibly talented musician. And then she escaped Jim Crow South and moved to Canada, where she got very famous. She was playing stages, all over Toronto and Montreal as well. And then sort of after a number of years, she decided she really wanted to transition and live her life more authentically as a woman, and that took her away from the stage. So she left the stage, moved to LA, and basically transitioned, and then no one heard of her for 35 years. So what Michael and I explore in the film is, one, what happened before she transitioned, but also what was she doing for all of that time when she was by herself and not contacting anybody. And then the other part of the story, as I mentioned about the family, that's very interesting, is she had nieces that, again, had never heard of her until after her death. They got a call and said, "You're the heir to Jackie Shane." And they said, "Who is Jackie Shane?" And so we explore that in the story as well. How does someone get erased from a family? And what are the impacts of homophobia and transphobia, within broader systemic lineages?
And so let's talk about this journey to getting to now this documentary being on streaming, but we know it goes back much further. When did you guys start putting this all together?
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, a long journey and worth it. And I was probably about 8 years ago. I started really looking for Jackie, and it took when it was announced that her there was a reissue of all her music, which was nominated for a Grammy for historical recordings, deservedly so. And when that announcement came out, then the world and we knew that she was alive. So I spent about a year trying to find her, and was fortunate enough with some help to find her, and get her number. And then I started talking with her, and we spoke every week, for hundreds of hours. And our longest conversation was, I think, 11 hours straight, and our average conversation was about 5 hours straight. And it was just an incredible year of hearing this woman's wisdom and this woman's story and this woman's power. And about a year into that, she agreed to make the film. And about a month after that, Jackie passed away. And as Luca mentioned, this is when her family found out that they had this incredible aunt who lived literally blocks away from them. Anjane and Vani lived blocks away from her in Nashville. And so we started working with them to make this film and to get their story and to get their trust, as it had taken me a year to get Jackie's trust. And that was a beautiful collaboration, and still is. But you can imagine the struggles in the current climate today of trying to get this film financed, and the antitrust sentiment and policies that are trickling down from the administration trickle down into the media and into funders. And so it was a very, very tricky thing, and probably not entirely unsurprising that this film was made in Canada with Canadian money and Canadian financiers. So it was quite an incredible journey, and luckily the conversations that I had with Jackie, a lot of them were recorded, and so this film we were still able to have Jackie tell her own story in her own voice, which is powerful and witty and wise and really, really inspiring. So yeah, it's been a long, long journey.
And what do you guys hope that audiences will take away when they see this documentary?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, the big takeaway is, that trans people are more than their gender identity. I think that's the stuff that brings me back to these projects. And, it's just such a privilege to be able to tell a story of someone who is, as Michael said, witty and fun and happy and strong and talented, and that her transition is just one part of who she is, but it's not everything. And I think we also, as a culture, we think a lot that transness is this new thing. But what thing I love about Jackie's story is, she came out as trans in the 40s. And so I think that's an important reminder as well, that these concepts aren't new, and that trans people have always been here, and they've been, living and existing and trying to do the things that they love to do.
Yeah. And then, so I know I've talked about this, hitting the streaming platforms, but that kind of opens it up to a whole nother audience that maybe hasn't been able to see it yet. So what does that milestone mean for both of you as filmmakers, but then secondly for Jackie's story?
Yeah, it means the world. This film's been playing at festivals throughout America and throughout the world for the last year or so, and the number of emails both Luca and I get every week from Americans saying, "My friend saw this at this festival. Where can I see it?" It just means a lot that it's out there, and this story is now available. And again, this is going all the way back to her having to leave Nashville and her having to leave Toronto, and this history being erased of like these these stories have not had spotlights shone on them for a variety of complicated reasons. So the fact that this is available now for people to access and learn her story, but also learn her joy and her courage is really, really incredible for us, I think, and rewarding.
Agreed. Yeah, as a filmmaker, it's amazing, and as Michael said, it's had a great festival run. But the fact that people can now watch it, on streaming is amazing. We get messages from people, like we even got one a few weeks ago from a Black trans woman who said that this film is just so important to her, and she watches it on a regular basis. And I think for people outside of the direct community too, it's like these stories aren't shown, and it's really important in today's time that we have just a lot of different stories from a lot of different experiences, and we don't just retell the same ones over and over again. And so I'm glad that people are going to have an opportunity to maybe learn something new.
And then, so what is next for both of you as filmmakers? I'll leave the question right there.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple doc projects I'm working on. They're in sort of the early stages, but I'm excited to sort of dive into them. One kind of about leather and fashion and the history there. So I think there'll be a good story to tell. And then I would, hoping to do some scripted stuff too. Documentary's been my main focus for the last decade, but I think this is a good time to maybe explore something else, because, with scripted, there's even a larger opportunity to tell stories that haven't been seen before. So I'm excited about what the next number of years looks like.
Yeah, me as well. And I think the working on Jackie's story and having lost Jackie, and the importance of having her voice on tape to be able to have her tell her own story, has, it's a scary thing, the stories that could possibly get lost. And Jackie Shane's story almost got lost, at least in her being able to tell it herself. And so a lot of the work that I'm doing now is work with making sure some of these older stories that we have them on tape, for one, and are also able to bring them to an audience in a new way, and bring some of our history to an audience in a new way, because as we know, it keeps repeating itself, and some of these lessons that our elders in particular have are really, really, really important. So, and that's just within the world of music that I live in, which is it's a privilege, but it's also scary in terms of their voices being lost, and we need to do everything we can to give them a platform and a microphone.
Absolutely. And then, so with that being said, and you spent so much time talking to Jackie, and so with that, one of my last questions is, if she could have seen the documentary, what do you think she would say?
A lot of that makes me a little emotional thinking about it. I pray God that she'd like it, but I'm going to say I think she would, because a lot of our conversation was about what a film about her would look like and feel like, and what she wanted an audience to feel like after they had seen it. And her knowledge was so vast, from literature to politics and film. She was an aficionado. She had an encyclopedic knowledge of film, like from the history of film. So she would give me very, very specific examples of films and what a film like about her would be like. So I'm not presumptuous in saying I think she would like it, because she was our North Star throughout this whole thing, and her guidance, and it was like going to film school. It was like going to art school with Jackie. So she taught me the things that Luca and I used to make this film. So because of that, I think and hope she would like it.
I second that. Yeah, I think she would. I think she would also enjoy how much it's impacted people, because that was something that was becoming more important to her nearing the end of her life, just recognizing, wow, I have power here to set an example and to inspire other people. And we've received so much positive feedback from that perspective.
And then the final question. Sorry, Michael. Go ahead.
She just said often that, the reason she finally chose, after 45 years of silence, she finally chose to tell her story, wasn't because the world was ready for it, but because the world needed to hear it right now more than ever. And so I think the fact that it's been out and that it's touched these people, and we've won a Peabody Award and on all of that, the fact that it's now available on the streamers the way it is, the world needs Jackie's story now more than ever, and so I think was important to her.
Yeah, and so the last question, where can people watch this on streaming, and when does it drop on there?
That's a good question. Michael might know a little bit more than me, but yeah, do we have a date? We might need to cut this part, but do we have a date?
I'm not sure actually the specific date,
okay,
but it's immediate. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
you're. Oh, spring 2026.
There we go.
2026.
Perfect.
Prime Video and Apple TV. Is that right? Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Well, thank you guys again so much for your time. I really appreciate it.